Hey everyone, welcome to Mind Travel Cafe. My name is Lissa Callahan, your host, and we're going to be talking today about astral travel. Now, many of you have probably heard of the astral plane. Maybe you've even experienced astral travel, or you know someone who does. You might have had an out-of-body experience. Whatever the case may be, that term is pretty well known in our society at this time. But a lot of people don't really understand how you do it, what happens when you're on the astral plane, what are some of the things that you can do when you astral travel. So what we've done is we've invited Christine Tavolacci. She is a psychic medium and she teaches about the astral and how to experience it in different ways. And she's able to do it in an easy way for everyone to understand. So we're so excited to have her here today. Christine, welcome.
Sure. Yeah. So I am a formally trained psychic intuitive reader and a psychic development teacher. And I love to help highly sensitive and creative souls find a deep connection with their innate spiritual gifts and abilities. So right now I'm currently an assistant teacher at Golden Rose Psychic Academy, where we both have been students.
Right?
And I also offer readings, mentorship, classes, workshops through my own business, which is called Kyanite Psychic Services, after one of my favorite crystals. So, I mean, it's a long journey of how I got started. But the short of it is, I've always been a deeply spiritual person, and I was raised by people that were also deeply spiritual, even though we have different beliefs now. That was always a focus in my life. And I'm was trained as a professional musician. That's my background or what I've been for most of my life. But musicians are highly, highly sensitive to energy. And as I got older, I noticed that I had a lot of very pronounced psychic experiences. And it got to the point where I really couldn't ignore it. And I was like, there's something here to develop. And I really wanted to go deeper with that. Fast forward to the pandemic, because as a musician, my life kind of blew up a little bit. We couldn't play on stages, and I play the flute, which is blowing air at people. So that was a no-no for a little while. So I thought, if I have this time, what am I going to do with it? And I was like, I'm going to take psychic development training. And I just fell in love with it. And I still am a professional musician, but I'm really, really passionate about not only being an intuitive reader and healer, but also helping other people learn how to do the same thing. I'm also a teacher. I love teaching people. I come from a family of teachers. So that's a little bit
Right.
about how I got started. But I think in terms of psychic experiences, the word is escaping me in this moment, but when you are seeing an event happen before it happens and
Mhm.
hearing people say things before they say them in the physical, I'll remember the word when we don't.
Like a premonition, right? Like a premonition. Mhm.
Precognitive. There we go.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah. So I had a couple really, really intense precognitive experiences that, shook me. And I was like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, I really want
Wow.
to structure my space so that I'm able to, tap into this at will, or to go deeper into why that I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing. So that, yeah, that's the short of it, I guess.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Well, I think
Yeah.
too, there's a lot of people that have those experiences and they wonder, am I somebody that could do this type of thing?
Yes.
So yeah, right. I mean, that's
Yes.
what Christine and I have learned is that basically anybody can do this. We all have our own special gifts and our intuition. I mean, the saying "trust your gut" wouldn't be around if if it wasn't for that information. So, as Christine said, I met her through my own training as a teacher, and she is an amazing teacher. She does basically what I hope for this podcast, which is to take spiritual topics, metaphysical topics that may seem a little complicated, or when you're online, you get multiple opinions and it just gets confusing. And Christine has a wonderful skill to be able to simplify things so that really anybody can understand what that topic is. So that's
Mhm.
why I think she's perfect for talking about the astral plane. because it can seem a little bit broad, and there are a lot of people that have opinions about it. So let's simplify it. I'm just going to ask first, Christine, if you could just tell us in your own words, what is the astral plane?
Sure. Well, you could think of the astral as the real world. That's a pretty simple definition, meaning that that is where our souls live. It's our soul's home on the astral. And here we are in a place where we're learning, growing, and having a specific set of experiences as humans in this dense earthly reality. But another simple way to look at the astral is it's the energetic parallel of the physical universe, right? Because we know that we have an energetic body and a physical body, right? So the universe, the physical, like stars, planets, right? There's an energetic parallel to that. And that's really what you could say that the astral is. It is all around us. It's other dimensions of reality that are intertwined with Earth and also extend far beyond it into other dimensions. And just like how the physical universe is infinite, right? You can look up scientific studies that there's a lot of firm beliefs that there's no end to it. There's no end to the astral plane either. It is also infinite.
That's amazing. So when we think of the astral plane, different cultures will have different ideas or names even for what
Yeah,
they would describe the
absolutely.
astral, right? So some might call it heaven, some might have a different name for it.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's infinite, and there's so many different realities and so many different fun places to play,
Yeah. There's room
which
for
is my
everyone's
favorite.
realities.
Right?
Right.
Because I'm a curious being. I just always, it's not like I want to just do things that other people can't do. I just want to learn and I want to experience. And I think I get a lot of that here in the 3D world, but it's a
Mhm.
fun place to learn about the universe and how things really work. The real world, as we might say, versus
Yeah.
here on Earth. So
Yeah.
let's ask, how do we experience the astral?
Yeah, that's an awesome question because there isn't really just one way. And I think, we were talking about all the info on the internet. And just to say, I think, I used to get stuck on this a little bit that astral projection was like the only way to experience it. And that's not so true. Right. So, we visit the astral or we go back there, back home, when we're sleeping. That's a big one, right? Aspects or parts of the astral plane are our dream space. But we also experience it during daydreams too. We tap into the astral space. So, anytime that you're bored at work, for example, right? Many of us have maybe worked a job or two where we were a little bored and you start to daydream like, oh, I really want to be on vacation. I want to be in Alaska. That's where I would be. I
There
was
you go.
daydreaming.
Perfect.
Anyhow, I'd be looking at a glacier. Well, really what you're doing is you're astral traveling to that place in space, right? In the astral, and you're there, right? So that's another way that we can be experiencing astral. And then also it's a space that's always available to us because there are subtle dimensions of the astral plane that intertwine with the earth plane. So when you get into your meditative space and you really like get centered and grounded in the body and you're starting to work with energy tools and maybe work with your guides and perceive your guides, that's also you experiencing the astral too.
I love that explanation because sometimes when we look up this information, other teachers, the internet, whatever, it can seem really complicated, right? And I
Yeah.
love that you talk about that there's multiple ways that we experience the astral, whether that
Mhm.
be, when you're asleep, like you say, when we're daydreaming, um, out of body experiences. There's just so many different ways. And even if you're trying to get to the astral, on purpose, rather than just falling asleep or daydreaming, different techniques work for different people. And if one
Yes.
technique doesn't work for you, try something else. There's lots of different ways. So that's my next question. When we talk about experiencing the astral, we talk about psychic senses or clairvoyant senses. How do we sense the astral? How do we perceive it when we're there? How do we know we're there?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a big, it's a big topic, but the main thing that I want to say is that, we're using our non-physical senses to perceive and experience the astral plane or many layers of the astral plane, because it's a non-physical space. So I think there's that misconception again that if you're, for example, having an OBE or journeying, that you're going to see in HD just like you see with your physical eyes, but you're not using your physical body to go there. It's not a physical space. So we're going to be using our non-physical senses. So senses like clairvoyance, which is clear seeing with your third eye or your mind's eye, right? That's a big one.
Right.
But also clairaudience, which is hearing with your inner ear, or mind's ear, whatever you want to call it. And another one too, claircognizance, which is clear knowing. Um, for me in my own life, my own experiences on the astral, for a long time, I thought I wasn't doing it right. Like, a long time. Like, oh, I don't know how to astral travel. I've never had an OBE. No, I totally have. But I'm very, at this point in my life, at least claircognizant, right? So there's a lot of knowing of what's going on, what's around you. Um, and sometimes that sense for me is stronger than my clairvoyance in certain areas of the astral plane. So I think a lot of us, when you're trying to travel or going on your own journey work, whatever your practice looks like, we get there, but it might not be a super clairvoyant space for you at the get-go. And we're like, oh, I guess I just didn't have that experience. But no, your knowing is like turned out is really strong. So it's important to know that we all have a unique blend of senses. And the other interesting thing is, the senses that you use, say, reading energy that I would use as an intuitive reader might be a different blend of senses than I use if I'm, having adventures on the astral. And it depends on where you are in the astral too. There are certain, especially higher vibrating layers of the astral where we can't even recall what happened there when we come back into our body. So there's a lot to there's a lot to explore there with perceiving it. Yeah.
With my own experience, I did this, I think, unintentionally as a child. I knew as a very young child that
Mhm.
when I went to sleep, I knew if I jumped, long before Michael Jordan, if I jumped, I stayed in the air for several seconds. And so
Mm.
I had that firm belief when I was in the 3D world, and it just didn't make sense to me why this wasn't happening. Or I would
That's
have
great.
other experiences where I would be going up, usually with another being, trying to avoid these lines, these electric lines, which was really interesting.
Mm.
So I think that was kind of the start. But now as I've gotten older, I've experienced it different ways with a class actually that I've taken with Christina. And she does multiple classes, some basic and some advanced. And it's really interesting to see. What I appreciate her when she's talking about the senses is I hadn't really thought about that before. I never really paid attention to how I was experiencing the astral. Either I was seeing it or I just knew what was happening. But just the other day, which is really great, after we had our class, the first time I in my mind knew that this being next to me had a certain smell. Now, I don't know that I really smelled it, but I knew what that smell was. And I went, wait, this is a first. I was so excited.
So cool. Yeah,
But
that's
there's
clairalience, clear
right.
smelling.
And
Hmm.
I've done that before when I've smelled, well, like with people that have passed on. That's kind of more common when you have smells like that. You'll smell smoke or, things like that
Hmm.
that you would associate with them.
I love that.
I wanted to share that with you because we just
Yeah.
talked about the senses and I was like, oh, I'll have to tell her about that because that was a first. So that's really
Yeah.
fun. And like I said, there's many different ways that you can go in, whether that be a guided meditation, all types of things.
Mhm.
Give yourself grace because it takes practice. Sometimes it's
Absolutely.
easy, sometimes it's not. It's just something that gets easier the more and more you do it, I think. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm too, the more that you can get comfortable being in your body and finding what I would call, your psychic space in the body in the center of your head and perceiving your body and your energy, and then starting to move out to perceiving the space around you, the easier it is going to be to delineate, different astral experiences that you're having and to understand how your senses work, right? Be more comfortable exploring the non-physical. So I think, things like meditation and a basic practice of working with energy tools are a great starting point. And also, things like whether you're tired or not, right? If you've slept enough
Right.
can affect the work that you're seeking to do in the non-physical. If you ate a big lunch one, and your body is trying to do a whole lot of physical things, it might make it really hard for you to step outside of your body and have those experiences because you're like, wait, we have work to do here. So there's a lot of factors.
I agree. I notice if I'm frustrated in some way, if I haven't gotten to sleep or my sleep has been interrupted, I will often travel to a different astral plane that maybe I didn't want to go to.
Yes. That's another big thing about dreams in particular and people that want to do different dream work practices. The number one starting point, I would say, is grounding yourself before you go to sleep and being able to release any excess energy that you're holding from the day. And also using whatever energy tools you want to separate from the energy of your day. Whether it's like all the conversations that you had with people, whatever TV show you watched when you got home, because
Right.
all of that will start to make its way into your astral space. And if you don't clear it out, then you're probably going to have what I always call those rehash dreams, where you're like rehashing your day in a different way. And you're doing that first before you're able to move beyond, right? So
Yeah.
if you get all that out of the way before you go to sleep, then you're able to, have some more enlightening astral experiences rather than a remix of what you did.
Right. Little
Yeah.
replay of the less
Yeah.
fun aspects of your day. I
Yeah.
agree.
And I mean, I forget too. And sometimes when I have them, like, oh, whoops, like I forgot to separate from this. And here it's showing up in my astral again.
So that brings me to another question. Before we get to some of the fun things that we can do on astral, I
Yeah.
think there's some misconceptions. I do feel that there are some people that wonder, can you die? Can you die in the astral?
Yeah. I mean, there is that fear that I think Hollywood has perpetuated, maybe different like
Right.
urban legends and lore and things like that. So we have our physical and energetic body right here, and then we have our astral body, and that's what we use to go into the astral and travel around its light body. And they're connected via this silver cord. And perhaps you may or may not be familiar with that. It goes from your third chakra, so your middle of your body, your solar plexus, to third chakra in your astral body. So there's some lore around, if other beings can disconnect it, or what if I become disconnected? And my take on that firmly is that you are sovereign, you're the divine ruler of your body, and nothing else can come in and sever that connection, right? So it's not possible for you to get lost on the astral. And also the other thing is that we move at the speed of thought there, or the speed of intention, if you want to say it that way, right? So, if you find yourself in a place or situation that you don't want to be in, you can
Right.
move yourself out of it. And I think sometimes we forget our power and our sovereignty. And again, a lot of that is lore and media and things like that make us think that we're powerless humans. And that's just not the truth, especially not in the astral.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Thank you. So that leads us to what are some of the fun things? Because I know there's so many things that we can do in the astral, but just a little sample of some of the things that you may want
Yeah.
to try or that you might be interested in.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think a really great thing is to all of us as infinite souls, we learn and we teach others. It's a big part of what we do on a soul level. So in the astral, you can absolutely go to what you might call astral classrooms and start to learn new things and then take some of that information back with you into the physical on Earth. So I think that's fun. Um, Another thing that I love to do, and I have a meditation that I can share with you all that walks you through this, is creating or your own healing sanctuary, like your own energetic spa space. And you can go to that same space time and time again on the astral that you created. And take a look at what's in that space. You can make it however you want. You can also see symbolically what shows up there for you and look at, okay, what can I take back with me into the physical? What parts of this healing sanctuary can create more of a sanctuary for myself in my life? So I think that's a really fun thing to do. I don't know if this can always count as fun, but you can, really start to work out or, relationships with other people. And I think it can be fun. You can go have adventures with loved ones, with friends. But I think it's a space where we have the opportunity to do a lot of healing with the relationships in our life, both with those who are still on the earth with us and those who have passed on. I've definitely had fun. I've definitely had more emotional, like some raw, working things out types of experiences. But that's just a little bit of what's available. Oh, and also meeting other beings too,
Yes.
um, meeting guides and visiting new places and spaces with them.
We could talk forever
I know.
about the wonderful things that
Infinite
you can,
space.
right, that you can do. I love the healing aspect,
Mhm.
both spiritually and being able to address maybe some relationships with those have passed on that you didn't have an opportunity, to do here. I've certainly done that. I've checked in on some family members and make sure they're
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
The Akashic Records is always,
Yes.
I think, something that a lot of people are really interested in. So that's certainly available.
Mhm.
One of the aspects of our teaching that Christine and I both learned about is how when we're on the astral, oftentimes we're taking classes, we're
Mhm.
learning about different things. Sometimes we teach classes. Isn't that
Mhm.
a crazy thought? You know, but so many awesome things that you can do just that are healing, if nothing else,
Mhm.
certainly things that we can learn. Love learning about new beings. It's
Mhm.
taught me a lot about spiritual beings and even spiritual beings that may not have originated here on this earthly plane. So
Yes.
it's a wonderful experience to learn how the universe works. So let me just ask you, Christine, before we finish up, I just wanted to say, we talk about how you and I both have had some clairvoyant training, but can anybody do this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we do. I think the first step is to validate that we do connect with the astral every day. We're not just in this vacuum of the earth plane. It is interconnected with all other, dimensions. Um, and, the first step would be to start to develop your own, I would say, meditation practice or starting to find your center. I do have a free workshop that starts to work you through that process for anyone that's interested. But starting to find your center and another simple thing too, in terms of, awareness is writing down your experiences. And this is maybe more in the dreams category of the astral. But the more that you start to document what you remember from your dream space, the more that you're going to receive, which is really fun because, for both of us, when we learned how to develop our intuitive reading abilities, there's a thing of, the more that you start describing what you see, the more that you're shown. And that is really true in the astral as well. The more that you start noticing the details, writing them down, validating them, the more that you're going to experience. So you don't need extensive training to write down what you remember from your dreams. And it's interesting because for a lot of indigenous cultures from all over the world, that used to be a cornerstone of what people did in the morning. You'd wake up and you'd share um, what did you dream last night? And dreams were seen as divinatory a lot of the time, of omens of what was coming ahead. Um, and I think in our busy lives, a lot of us have become disconnected from that. So I think that's a beautiful thing to explore, and maybe you can make it something for your family and friend circle. Like, what did you dream? What did you dream? And it helps everyone to cultivate a more rich experience in the astral, not even just dreaming in all ways that you want to visit it. Yeah.
Actually, something that I tried just last night, which is interesting because it was suggested by someone else, and I had not thought to do it, would be to
Mhm.
record it sometimes I can't really write down fast enough before it's gone.
Yes, I've done that
So,
too a couple times, like
right.
voice notes, right?
And we
Mhm.
have our phone almost always right next to the bed. So I've got it on my chest and I'm just trying my best not to wake up the rest of the house as I'm just dictating what I saw because I knew it was something I didn't want to forget. So all
Yes, I
kinds
have
of
also
ways.
done that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Great
amazing.
suggestion.
And like I said, if you're a learner, if you're a life learner, there's so many things that you can experience. So Christine, tell us a little bit, like I said before, you do some workshops, some meditations that might lead into, being more sensitive to your senses and being able to see, a little clearer when you're in the astral. So talk a
Yeah.
little bit about your offerings and how people can find you.
Sure, absolutely. So there's a couple places to find me. I would suggest checking out my YouTube channel, which is YouTube at Kyanite, like the crystals, psychic, one word. And I have a lot of videos related to psychic development, spiritual development on there, and some workshops and a lot of guided meditations. A couple to help you strengthen your psychic senses. So there's that. I have a free offerings page, which I'll give you the link so we can share that, that has, an easy way to find some free workshops and meditations and materials there. But I would recommend, I do have a 4-week on-demand class called Psychic and Energetic Self-Healing. And it really introduces you, first of all, to finding your psychic space, getting centered, which is what I was talking about earlier, starting to develop that awareness of energy. That's a great starting point. We learn some fundamental tools that you can use to shift your energy, which is to heal yourself, right? When we boil that down. And you can customize the tools that you learn in that class for any aim, any area of your life that you're working on. So, for instance, if you want to become more aware of the astral, you could customize some of these tools to help you with that goal.
Thank you, Christine, so much for, explaining some of these topics that I think a lot of people have questions about and being able to learn about them in a simple and easy way. There's a lot of information out there, and it's just really nice to be able to hear about a topic like this in a clear and simple way. So we'll have that all linked down below if you would like to find Christine and experience some of the things that she's talked about. Again, she has some meditations that will be very helpful for this type of topic. So please be sure to check that out. And
Mhm.
again, thank you for coming along with this wonderful ride through the mind and just the undiscovered. And if you would like to follow along, please feel free to subscribe. Thanks again.